Hi everyone, welcome to our first tasting video. Before we get started, we'd like to introduce ourselves just in case you're not familiar with our faces. So I'm Emily.
And I'm Kaylin.
And you may know us as Peggy's daughters. Our mom started the company in 1994, and Kaylin and I recently took over in the past year with the relaunch. So we're really excited to be here and to be shooting our first of a mini tasting series. We're going to be tasting through 2 of our Napa Valley estate oils out of the 6 on our website. So Kaylin is going to take it away with explaining the 2 estate oils we have here today.
Great, thanks, Em. So today we're going to be tasting through our Bosche estate oil and our Wallis estate oil. These 2 are the most mild olive oils that we have on our site today, and kind of how these videos will work is we'll go 2 oils at a time up the spectrum from most mild, which will be today, and then to kind of middle ground, and then finally the last video that we do will take you through our more robust olive oils. We'll explain kind of how they taste and how we use them and how you might use them in your own home. So what do we mean by mild olive oil? When we're tasting an olive oil, we're really looking for the 3 positive attributes that you can find, which are fruitiness, bitterness, and pungency. So our more mild olive oils are going to score on the mild side of all of those 3 categories, which will then make them an oil that is a little bit more buttery, has a little bit less of its own character, and really more so can just add to, I'm not sure where I was going with that.
Well, it can add to any baked good or any food that you don't want the olive oil to really permeate. If you're just looking for a substitute for butter for baking, say, or it's really just like an everyday use oil. Mm-hmm. And just to be clear, when we say that they're mild in the sense of fruitiness, bitterness, and pungency, that doesn't mean that they're any lower of a quality compared to our more robust oils. It means they simply just have different characteristics. So they're still on the same caliber as the other estate oils.
Yes, exactly. And it's really more about your personal preference in terms of where you are picking your olive oil in that scale from mild to more robust.
Yeah, so these 2 oils, they won't give you that feeling that you have to cough after you taste them. Some of our more robust ones, they have that pungency in the back of the throat that makes you want to cough a little bit.
Exactly.
So I think how we're going to do this is I'm going to taste one of these oils, Kaylin's going to taste the other, and then we're just going to kind of explain the different flavor notes that we're picking up of each, and then we can kind of dive into how we like to use these oils in the kitchen.
Sounds
okay,
great.
let's do it. So I will do Wallis.
I'll take the Bosche.
And we have yet to open these.
You guys get the full effect
We've
of getting these products. Oh, that came off with it. It's okay.
It's all right. Okay, so we are using these little tasting cups today, and we have 4 just in case we each want to switch. But these are actually made for olive oil tasting, and we did a course in, was that January?
Yeah, in January.
And just very briefly, the reason that these are blue is so that when you're tasting an oil, you can't actually see the color of the oil. And that's because the color of the oil doesn't actually have any merit as to how good an olive oil is or the quality. So yeah, that's why these are blue. And then they kind of funnel in at the top so that you can preserve the olfactory senses that we're going to be walking you guys through.
Yes, and you'll see that. You definitely don't need this kind of a setup though if you're doing it at home.
No. We usually use bread.
Yeah, I was just about to say we usually are having our olive oil with bread if we're just having it straight up. But if you want to go through more of a traditional tasting panel with your olive oil, then any just small dish will do. Pour a little olive oil in it. The most important thing is to kind of do what we'll walk through of like swishing and heating it up a little bit so that you really release the olfactory
and covering it as well if you want to pick up the olfactory notes of it. But if you're just having olive oil just to have it, then we recommend using French bread.
Really good French bread.
Yep. Okay,
so we're just gonna pour
just a little bit,
not a lot, tiny bit. Okay.
And we're going to be actually drinking the olive oil. We don't have our spit cups with us today. And we made that mistake when we took our tasting course. We tasted in one day, I think like 50 to 75 olive oils, and we weren't spitting the olive oil out like everybody else, and we just got the worst stomach aches.
Yeah.
So we're only doing 2, so we'll be fine. All right, do you want to kind of explain how you...
Yeah, so you're gonna take your glass and you're gonna put it in the palm of your hand, whatever glass you're using, and then you're gonna take your other palm and put it on the top, and then you're just going to lightly swirl it around. And so this is both to move the oil and get it to release some of its characteristics that way, and also to heat it with the heat of your hand. So we actually are in a pretty hot climate right now, so we probably don't need much time here. But the colder it is where you are, the more you might need to kind of move it around on your hand to make sure that it really gets warmed. And there's a certain temperature that you're supposed to warm it to, but I don't know. Just kind of, do it for maybe 30 seconds and then call it a day.
Yeah, and
then you're gonna just bring your hand up, and I'll talk while Emily demonstrates, and you're gonna smell.
So olfactory wise, I'm picking up light grassiness, like fresh green grass. It's one of the notes that's coming through. What about you?
So on mine, I'm getting more of a like tomatoey,
like green tomato.
Yeah. Actually, it's a little bit more ripe, like a pretty
I'm
ripe
getting a little
tomato.
green tomato for the Wallis.
Oh yeah, and so this is the Bosche.
Yeah. So just so you know, the Bosche is what we consider our most mild oil on the website, and then it goes up to Wallis. So it makes sense that Kaylin would be smelling a little bit more ripe tomato, and I'd be smelling a little bit more green.
Yeah. And what we're really looking for here when we're smelling it is just that fruitiness characteristic that we talked about earlier. The bitterness and pungency, you're only going to get that when you actually taste the oil, whereas fruitiness, you're going to get most of the sense of that from the smell, and then when you taste it, you'll also be able to kind of pick up on the different like fruit, veggie tones that might be present.
I think it's warm enough.
Yeah, it's definitely warm enough.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'll try the Wallis.
And I'll try the Bosche.
Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull a little bit of olive oil into our mouths and then make Okay. So you make a kind of like a sucking in air motion, but you clench your teeth a bit so that it goes in outside of your teeth, back into your throat. And this is where you're going to pick up the pungency, which you'll feel in the back of your throat, and the bitterness, which you'll feel on the back of your tongue. So I'm going to try this one now.
So I got a little bit of bitterness as it was kind of reaching the back of my tongue. I didn't actually take enough to really get a sense of the pungency, so I'm going to take a little bit more.
So, wow, Wallis, there's a bit of kick at the end, and that's the pungency coming through. It's well balanced with the bitterness as well, I would say. What about yours?
I would say also well balanced. You're gonna get just a super, super mild bitterness and pungency. I can kind of feel a little tickle in the back of my throat, but not anywhere near needing to cough, which I usually cough at any like medium to robust oil. So definitely very mild, but present characteristics of bitterness and pungency. And then I'm also getting that like very ripe tomato taste in my mouth.
Yeah, I sense green tomato as well. And green grass. There's one other one. Let's try again.
I'm getting it a little in my nose now.
One characteristic that they claim that are in a lot of olive oils is green almond, but we've actually never tried green almond, which we need to.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that might be present as well. It is in a lot of extra virgin olive oils, but our taste buds aren't familiar with that yet.
Yeah.
So.
One of the things they recommended in our course was to start going out and getting a bunch of herbs and veggies and fruits and tasting through them so that we had a palate that could really distinguish between all of those little subtle differences between them, so that when you're trying the olive oil, you can pick up on those super subtle differences in flavor. We haven't quite gotten there yet, though.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not even sure we have green almonds in the United States. I've never seen them in a farmer's market.
I had never heard of them before the course, so maybe not.
I was going to say that I also tasted a bit of artichoke in this one.
Nice.
Yeah. So those are the 2 oils, Wallis and Bosche. And like we said, they're on the mild scale, so maybe we should give a few recommendations of how we like to cook with them.
Yeah.
I can start.
Okay.
You know, my favorite thing to cook is olive oil cake. I had a spree of making olive oil cakes. I think I made like 5 in the course of a month or something.
It was at least 3 one week, and it was bad.
So,
good but bad.
Yeah, it was but it was good in the end for everybody. So I used Wallis for that. We had a lot of Wallis at the house, and we didn't have Bosche at that point. But you could use either of these to bake an olive oil cake. Yeah, I started doing just a simple olive oil cake is beautiful, but also if you want to throw some like lemon extra virgin olive oil in there as well with this, or the zest of a lemon to do a lemon cake. And what was that one I made that I put dates and walnuts. Yeah, in the Wallis estate. And the olive oil cake recipe on our Instagram, and I added cardamom and cinnamon, and it was so good. So that is personally how I would use these in the kitchen. What about you?
They're also just really good substitutes for your everyday oil. I think the biggest difference between these and more robust oils in terms of how you would use them is that a more robust oil, the characteristics of it will seep into whatever you're making a little bit. Whereas these are almost like a substitute for butter. They're going to add a nice fat profile, but they aren't going to have a lot of other characteristics or flavors that they're adding to your dish. So if you really want control over the flavor that you're creating and you don't want the addition of the olive oil flavors, I think these are really good ones to go with.
And if you do want subtle characteristics of both of these oils, you could even cook with these and then at the very end drizzle a little bit over the top. That's what I do in a lot of my cooking, and it provides like a very subtle notes of how we described. So yeah, but we roast vegetables with these all the time. We do like bowls with quinoa, veggies, avocado,
salad dressings,
like vinaigrettes. Yeah. Well, I think that concludes our first tasting session.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming along with us.
Yeah, thank you for coming along, and we'll be tasting through all of our estate oils. So this is just the first video, but as Kaylin said, we're gonna build up in robustness with the oils. So the next video will be our kind of like middle ground extra virgin olive oils, and these are all from estates in the Napa Valley, harvested last November 2019. So yeah, we're excited to share that with you guys. And in the meantime, we hope that you have a lovely week ahead of you, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time.